Episode 161, A Familiar Figure. "How do you explain this?" Nola asked Serena sharply. "A divorce contract. I had no idea that you had it in you to draft something like this. I don't know what Captain Robinson sees in you. I don't know why Jake defends you. To become Mrs. Robinson, you and your mother have indeed worked hard." Serena's heart raced even more. Looking at the furious Nola, she calmed down, glanced at her and asked, "Where did you get this?" Divorce contract. The term was 1 year. About 7 months had passed until now. So, they only had less than half a year left. On it, there were her and Jake's signatures, as well as the red stamp from the lawyer. It was a legitimate contract. "Never mind that." Nola looked emotional as she stood up. "You and my son have had this kind of agreement since the very beginning. So who is the father of the baby that you have lost? Was there even a baby in the first place?" Serena felt she was suddenly back to her last lifetime, when everyone was pointing fingers at her. Nola Robinson had not changed a bit. However, Serena was no longer that old Serena. With her face ice cold, she stood up and said slowly, "Mother, the reason I call you that is because I treat you as my own mother." Nola looked at Serena incredulously, not expecting to hear that tone from her. "However, are you sure what you are doing now fits the description of a mother? If my baby was not Jake's, do you think your son would forgive me? Do you think he could tolerate being cuckolded by me?" Nola stopped. Indeed, no one knew Jake better than her. He was someone quite harsh and would never tolerate anything like that. "I know that you have never liked me, nor have you never ever treated me like your daughter-in-law. I'm aware of that, and frankly, I don't care about your approval. I consider you as my mother, and I will stick by it. However, what I don't understand is why you are working so hard to bring Jake and Lila together." It was true. Serena never understood that. "Last time at the press conference, you saw clearly that my baby's death had everything to do with Lila Cox. If it were not for her, my baby would be 7 months old today. And before we bring in the new year, I would become a mother. In 2 years, he or she would be able to call you Grandma and call me Mom." Listening to Serena speak about her dead child, Nola was a bit touched. Looking at her, who had hatred burning in her eyes, Nola was puzzled. She had always thought that Serena had no temper, but it turned out that the woman who had always been hiding behind Jake and protected by the captain could be so fierce. "But Mother?" Serena's eyes looked blank. "My baby is dead. My baby was killed by Lila, and instead of questioning her and blaming her, here you are treating me like this? Why, Mother? Why? This is so unfair." Looking at her, Nola sneered. "So you expect me to take your word? Okay, I'll take it, and believe that the baby was my son's. But how about this? How do you explain it?" Nola said, waving the divorce papers in Serena's face. Serena suddenly had an idea while staring at the divorce contract, which was being waved in front of her. She knew this would explain all the confusions. Chuckling, she had a complicated look on her face as she asked slowly, "Did he ask you to talk to me?" "He? Jake?" Nola looked at her surprised. Serena's eyes became damp. He wanted to get a divorce ahead of time, so that Lila Cox and his baby could naturally become a part of the Robinson family, right? So, The secret that belonged to them would appear in Nola's hands for her to force a divorce between them. Right? Serena's heart ached bluntly. Her dark eyes were watery. The next second, she smiled radiantly. Please tell him that I will not get a divorce. As long as Serena did not get the divorce, Lila would be the mistress. She wanted Lila Cox's baby to be born as a bastard. And here, they wanted her to step down and welcome the intruders. In their dreams. Facing a puzzled-looking Nola Robinson, Serena said what she had to, took her purse and walked away. After paying for the meal, she caught a taxi and went straight home. She thought she would cry, but when she got in the taxi, she felt her heart unexpectedly empty. Her eyes were dry. Leaning against the back of the seat, she felt like she was so depressed that she could fall into a bottomless pit any time. Taking a deep breath, Serena opened the window and saw the landscape of the city going back. The cold wind of October filled the car, making her shudder. Thinking of a place, she looked away and said, "Sir, please go to Austin Clock Tower." Austin Clock Tower was located at the center of Austin, surrounded by many famous office buildings and landmarks. After purchasing a ticket, Serena directly went to the top of the tower. Looking down from the glass floor on the rim, she felt her heart beating like thunder. Very soon, it was almost dusk, and the city lit up. This made Serena feel a little calm as she looked into the distance. The city was ablaze with lights. The streets were lit up by the street lamps. Vehicles coming and going. Underneath her, the largest river in Austin was flowing. Luxurious ships were going slowly on the river. The whole setup was just magnificent. Having lived in the city for so many years, it was the first time for Serena to look at it this way. Lost in thought, the buzzing cell phone in her purse started ringing. She was lost in her thoughts. Looking down, she was suddenly shocked by the view under her foot. Her first reaction was to step back, before she thought of the fact that she was standing on top of Austin's clock tower. Noticing that there were people glancing at her, she felt embarrassed, blushed, and walked to a quiet corner. Taking out her cell phone, she saw it was Henry Miller, who was relentlessly trying to call her. "Hey, sunshine!" "Hey." "Look back!" Dazed, Serena turned her head back. There he was, Henry standing, holding his cell phone, looking at her with a brilliant smile. Under his rimless glasses, his eyes were gentle and attractive. "Why are you here? How did you know?" Serena exclaimed. "Are you following me?" Hearing that, Henry stepped back and cried. "Hell no! That is quite a brazen assumption. I'm here with clients." She looked behind him. "Where are the clients?" "Gone. I said I saw a good friend here, so they said they would leave first." "Are you alone?" "Yes." "Great. Join me for dinner. I've not eaten yet." "Don't you need to have dinner with your clients?" "The two of them are a couple, so they're going to eat together. I'm not invited. Single people have no human rights." Henry pretended to look very upset as he said that. This cracked up Serena, who laughed and pretended to be reluctant. "All right then. I've not eaten anyway." Looking at her, Henry smiled even more and nodded. "Let's go." By the time they were done with dinner, it was past 9 p.m. With a great conversation, Henry managed to divert Serena's mind in less than 3 hours. She was laughing throughout, and her frenzied thoughts were quickly eased. Henry had driven to the tower, so he proposed to drive her home. Serena did not reject and asked him to drop her at Travis Green's place. The ride back to Father Green's house was light and full of laughter, and Serena couldn't remember what was bothering her. She felt free with Henry in the car. However, when they arrived at the building, a familiar figure caught Serena's eye. Tall and handsome, and so familiar.